This debate started as something that we haven't seen in a long time, a normal debate.
It was pretty normal, yeah.
And it continued that way throughout. And this is what all the debates used to be like. If you're a young person out there and you never saw a non-insane debate, this was it. Okay, so back in the old days, these are all the debates that we had. Relatively boring. They trade a couple of barbs, but they'd be respectful to each other. And they would say, I appreciate what Senator Vance is saying. I agree with Governor Walz there, etc. So welcome back to the old America, at least for a night. And so that was kind of a relief. It was the first debate of this cycle where there wasn't someone who was senile or insane on the stage. So in the first debate, you're like, no, the train wreck of Joe Biden. And in the second debate, you're like, no, the train wreck of Donald Trump. Here, there were no train wrecks. So in the beginning, we're on most honest show in America, I had Vance winning, and I'll tell you why in a minute, okay? Then I thought Walz pulled even, but just even. And at the very end, I thought Walz took the lead and won the debate. So I'll break it down for you. In the beginning, Vance's #1 job was look normal, look normal, look normal, right? Because he's gotten called weird, he's awkward, he hasn't been doing well on the campaign trail. Of the 4 candidates, he's the least popular, right? President and vice presidential. And of the 4, the most popular is Tim Walz. So he had to look normal, he had to look non-insane, especially because the top of the ticket is a total lunatic. So this was him saying to Americans, look, we're not all insane. I could put together sentences without saying the craziest things you've ever heard in your life. Now, it doesn't mean that he didn't say things that were wrong. He did. In a little bit in our coverage, I'm gonna show you his best moment too. Because again, our job is to be honest with you guys on who did well, etc., not just root for the guy that you want. So, and Walz was definitely nervous in the beginning. And then he had one slip up about how he's friends with school shooters. He met, of course, with the victims of school shooters.
Or did he?
Okay, but the Republicans are gonna, that's the most normal, benign slip up. When Joe Biden, for example, said, we finally defeated Medicare, I was like, no, that's not a normal slip up. It was part of his senility. In the case of Tim Walz, he just misspoke. Vance did that same thing. So, but he was nervous in the beginning. Now, in the middle, what Walz started to do was keep giving great explanations for Democratic policies. He defended regulations. Democrats never do that in a debate. And he did it really well. He's like, look, if your house is gonna be on fire, catch on fire, we gotta have some regulation to prevent that, right? Because we don't want you to burn to death. He explained healthcare and how Obamacare helped and how the Republicans don't have a plan, etc. Now, what Vance was good at was, Vance came in and kept emphasizing the good economic times in the first 3 years of Trump. See, if they only did that in this campaign, they'd have a pretty good shot at winning. Now, I could break that down for you, then you get into my political ideology and I can show you why I don't think that's exactly right. But as a matter of strategy, that is definitely the correct strategy. Instead of saying, they're eating cats, they're eating dogs, they're executing babies. What is that, right? So this is a more rational and smarter way to go. And he kept saying, well, Kamala Harris had 3.5 years to do that, 3.5 years to do that. Why didn't Kamala Harris do that? Good strategy. Now, is it true? Come on, guys. The vice president has no power at all. So that's absurd. What did Mike Pence get done in 4 years? The only thing he got done was at the end when he's like, no, I'm not gonna help you with a coup. And then of course that leads us to the end of the debate where Walz pulled ahead by doing something that's dangerous but really great if you nail it in a debate, which is asking the other guy a question. And he said, did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election? And that's the #1 cancer for the Trump team, which is that Trump's crazy and he thinks he won the election, or he's lying about it to trick MAGA, etc. And you seem unhinged if you still say, oh no, I think Trump won, right? So Vance is stuck. If he says, yeah, Trump won, he sounds crazy. And that drives a giant news cycle. But he can't anger the #1 client that he has, and that's Donald Trump. He knows that if he says, oh yeah, of course he lost the election, Trump's gonna kick him off the ticket with a month left to go. Right? He's gonna bring Pence back. Okay, so give me RFK Jr. So he gave no answer at all. And then Walz came back in and said, wow, that non-answer is telling. And this is the difference. No matter what you agree and disagree on politically, you can't have somebody who loses an election say, I didn't, and try to hold on to power and overthrow our democracy. And that's the heart of the Kamala Harris camp. Like, there's tons of things about Kamala Harris' campaign, but remember, Biden would only talk about that. But there's still an integral part of the Kamala Harris campaign, and that's why I'm voting against Donald Trump. He, in my opinion, as you guys know from watching the Young Turks, if you have, that I think he tried to do a coup with the fake elector plot, etc. So that was a very convincing argument at the end, and I think it put Walz over the top and won the debate. Anna, what do you think?
I agree with your overall analysis. For me, the turning point for Walz was when the question of reproductive rights came up. I think that he did shine in the way that he responded to that. He had, look, I'm usually not the person who's enamored with anecdotes, but that issue is a perfect issue to bring up specific cases in which women were victimized by these abortion bans. And so he did that. He relayed the message with empathy. And I feel like that's the moment in the debate where he really got his mojo going and then just was more and more confident as the debate went on. So I agree with you on that. To be quite frank, I think Walz started off incredibly nervous. And in fact, in the very first answer where they were discussing Israel doing a preemptive strike in Iran, which, by the way, the framing of that question was weird. What do you mean preemptive strike? Israel has already done strikes in Iran, but okay, putting that aside. He kind of misspoke, his answer was strange, but again, he got better and better as the debate progressed.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think he started off weak. I think I agree with you that the first great point was, I wouldn't say the topic of abortion, I would say the first majority of the topic of abortion. I think that his initial comments were good. I agree, the use of anecdotes, it's the best sort of way that you can use anecdotes. I do think that on the latter half of the abortion stuff, he did a good job of describing how the new legal status quo is extreme. He didn't do a great job of describing how Vance is extreme on that. I don't think he did a great job of explaining how a second term under Trump could take this even further and talk about how Donald Trump is going on talk shows and saying we're looking into dialing back, contraception rights and things like that. Like, I think he could have gone a lot further, but the start was good. And I definitely think the defense of democracy stuff was good. I think he had some awkward moments. The response to the question about Tiananmen Square was very awkward and uncomfortable, particularly at the end. And I do think if you're evaluating who won, I think it very much depends on your frame of reference. If it's just those two against each other, I think Walz probably narrowly won, but if you said that Vance narrowly won, I wouldn't disagree with you that much. I think it sort of depends. I do think that considering how bad Trump lost the last debate, the fact that Vance at least was close is a win for the campaign. I think that that's definitely true. And I like the way that you started off this segment talking about this sort of a return to what things were like before, because we have a lot of younger viewers who don't necessarily know. It's not like these were great honorable gentlemen. Vance was wildly dishonest about January 6th and about abortion and about healthcare policy and about a lot of these things.
Yeah, he was just more sophisticated about it.
Yeah, he wasn't lying to you as he spat in your face over and over again with the lies. He was just lying to you like politicians do, whereas Trump is talking about people making like Reuben sandwiches out of collies. Like, it's a different sort of lie.
Name calling,
talking about golf,
penis talk, like that kind of stuff wasn't really a mainstay of political debates until Trump came along. So I will say it was nice to hear two individuals engage on the issues. Yes, there's deception and all of that, but they didn't disrespect each other.
Yeah, well, so last couple of things here in the summary at least, and then we're gonna have all the clips for you in our live coverage. Vance had to look normal. That's why him being polite and respectful, etc., was really well played on his part. Strategically, it made people feel more comfortable with him. Walz, I wish throughout that he had attacked a little bit more. I know he's doing the folksy thing and he's a polite guy and all that stuff. I mean, golly gee, I'm a knucklehead and blah, 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 and all that folksy. But at the end, I like the knucklehead. Yeah, I like the knucklehead. Being too nice to Vance, I don't love. But he is also matching the energy and the tempo of Vance, and so he doesn't look as mean if he over-attacks. I get all that. But at the end of the day, when it got to the end of as it got into the second half of the debate, Walz was very tough on Vance without seeming mean.
Yeah, exactly.
So he did it like, it's not often that I think that someone else did a better job at a debate than I would have.
I don't think it's ever happened before.
But that portion of it, Walz definitely did better because I would have been more aggressive and would have come across as too aggressive in that sense. Walz, by the latter half of the debate, had just the right balance of like, what are we doing here, right? But without seeming like a jerk.
What we might think of as his vibe, he finally had landed on that's what we want out of Walz as a communicator.
Yeah.
Cenk, not everyone wants like the strength of Turkish coffee. Some people just want like American drip, medium roast to light roast. Like
some people want too strong.
But the point that I'm trying to make is you have to understand like that aggressive, fighting spirit might appeal to you, but I think that represents a fraction of the electorate. I think a lot of people get turned off by that, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's a mixed bag, obviously. And especially for Democrats who usually don't fight back enough. But here, he fought back with facts, so I'll take it.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the plug on twostrongcoffee.com. I'll also put in a plug on shoptyt.com where we have tons of Walz merchandise, including one that just dropped. Okay, now.
And can I say that I'm pushing for an I'm with Knucklehead with an arrow t-shirt? Let's get that going, graphics department.
Yeah.
It should be, for Walz, it would be pointing up.
Yeah. Look, the last point I wanted to make on the substance of it was there was an interesting, important part, also kind of amusing if you ask me, about healthcare, where we got back to Trump's concepts of a plan, and Vance didn't have a good answer there because, he kept saying about Kamala has 3.5 years. Well, Trump had 4 years to come up with a healthcare plan, and he didn't at all, right? And then when they got into pre-existing conditions, JD Vance is like, oh, no, it's okay, because we already have a law that protects you against pre-existing conditions. Yeah, that law is called Obamacare, and you're welcome, okay? The one that Donald Trump tried to take away, you remember that? But he failed, as he usually does, in taking it away. So that answer was terrible on healthcare, and now it's been 8 years, 9 years since he said he was gonna have a better healthcare plan than Obamacare. And at the last debate, he still was at concepts of a plan. You know why? Because he doesn't care about you. He doesn't care, like no donor paid him to have a healthcare position that helps you. In fact, donors usually pay to have healthcare positions that hurt you, right? And that's true of Republicans and Democrats. But the fact that Democrats did actually help you with Obamacare, it's not the world's greatest bill. We've talked about it a billion times, but it did get rid of that provision that was terrorizing America. That if you had a pre-existing condition, you were screwed. The Democrats did lower drug prices on at least 10 drugs. I think it should be 10,000 drugs, but at least they got there. The Republicans have zilch, nothing. You got healthcare problems, they'll make it worse. They'll take away Obamacare. They'll take away protections on pre-existing conditions. And they don't, after all this time, they still don't have any healthcare plan at all.
No one is gonna do anything about healthcare. Okay, let us dispel the notion that anyone is gonna do anything about healthcare in the next presidential term.
Yeah.
So it's sweet that the question was asked, okay? But I'm kind of annoyed by it because I know no one's gonna do anything about it.
Yeah.
Okay, the Affordable Care Act will remain in place, which is good. It's better than what we had before. But the idea that Republicans have a plan to replace it, obviously they've proven that that's not the case. And Democrats do not intend on improving on the Affordable Care Act. So let's just stop pretending.
So look, let me just say the last thing about that. To be fair to the Democrats, they do give you 5 to 10% change. And sometimes things like pre-existing conditions, this is a really important 10%. Lowering the drugs on some of the most, like insulin, lowering the prices on that is a nice 10% win, right? Now, having said that, Anna's not wrong. They're never gonna do Medicare for all, at least in this corporate Democrat, corporate Republican. But to the point of not forget universal health care, which the country loves and wants, over 70% of Americans want it. Every developed nation on earth has it. It costs half of what we have, but our politicians are so corrupt, there's no chance they're gonna do that. But to Anna's point, the Democrats say like benign things like public option, which are so popular, and they never even propose it. Because if you think AIPAC or the oil companies or defense contractors are enormous donors that control our government, A, you're correct. But B, oh, they got nothing on the drug companies. Drug companies in this cycle, when there isn't that much on the line, have already spent 4 times what AIPAC is spending. right? So that is why nothing gets done, because the politicians work for them. Most honest show in America. So if you're hearing some Democrats tell you how the Democrats are gonna solve everything, the Republicans are telling you the Republicans are gonna solve anything, that's nonsense. The donors are in charge.
Yeah, and look, Biden ran on wanting to pass a public option for healthcare, and he didn't fight for it at all. Kamala Harris isn't even running on a public option. So like, that's the reason why I just feel like we're wasting our time even discussing how healthcare is gonna change under the Democrats. It's gonna be the same.
So just in case this is the last debate, I'll end this, my part of the summer, by saying, look, at the end of the day, the Democrats are 10% change, and that's what they almost always deliver, 5, 15, depending on the president, right? About 10% change, just enough so that you don't blow up and that you got a little release valve from the pressure of all of our lives and the corporate rule that we're living under. The Republicans generally go 50% in the wrong direction, right? Or sometimes 100% in the wrong direction. And then on top of all that, when Trump wouldn't leave office and he had people attack the Capitol and they said they're going to murder your vice president, and he said he deserves it. And then he said we should terminate the Constitution because he didn't win. No chance I'm voting for Trump. None of you should vote for Trump. So Vance looked relatively normal today. There's a pretty decent debate performance. He looked like a normal, sane human being. And yeah, did he lie? Of course. And Walz caught on the Tiananmen Square thing. But remember, guys, also if you're young, all politicians lie. They've been lying in debates for time immemorial.
They get special training
right.
in it, yeah.
Yeah, so this was a normal lying politician debate.
Yeah.
And Walz told way less lies. I mean, at the debate, I don't think he told any lies, but the Tiananmen Square thing's uncomfortable for whatever the hell he was talking about when he made that initial comment. Yeah, but overall, Vance had a bunch of lies, but not bad. But at the end of the day, this is, in my opinion, this election is not a close question or a decision.